And there's an old folklore about this place called the Devil's Tramping Ground. The Hammond organ and the Leslie cabinet, one of the most classic instruments ever. It spans nearly every genre, from pop to country to rock, and no doubt, of course, gospel. Behind me is my 1954 C3 and my 54 Leslie. And shortly after I started the studio, I really had to find the right one. So I looked and looked, and this is long before the days you search things out like this on the internet. And I finally found this one out on the coast of North Carolina. And I needed a way to get it back. So I had a good friend at the time who had a Jeep Cherokee with a trailer hitch. So I rented a U-Haul trailer, grabbed a couple of good friends, because these things are heavy, and we literally drove out to the coast on a sunny morning to this church and loaded the B3 up, the Leslie up. I have the service records, which are really cool because you have to oil these things. There's quite a bit of maintenance that goes into a B3 or a C3. And the difference between a B3 and a C3 are B stood for bar, C stood for church. And the bar versions have legs, and the C versions have wooden side panels with more ornate engravings. So this is technically a C3, but the internals are all the same. So we load this organ up, and it's heavy. We load the Leslie up, and we strap it down in the back of this U-Haul. And I noticed the clouds are starting to turn pretty dark. It's starting to get windy. We start heading back, and a downpour starts. I mean, it literally starts raining like crazy. You can barely see 20 feet in front of your car. And we're on these back country roads as we're heading back to Charlotte to bring this organ back. As I'm driving, and it's pouring rain, I start to come up over this hill. Now, I'm in the country. To the left of me is basically a forest, and to the right of me are fields and an embankment that falls off with gravel into a huge ditch. Anyway, I'm riding down the road. I come up over this hill, and literally, in the middle of the country where I've seen hardly any vehicles, there's a semi-truck stopped in the middle of my lane. So I immediately slam on the brakes. And the car goes into an incredible slide. It's as if I was on ice, with this heavy organ and U-Haul just pushing me down the road, straight toward the back of this semi-truck. So I yank the wheel to the right and literally go over this embankment. And it was probably about a 4 or 5 foot drop off down into a ditch in the grass and gravel, with a trailer attached with the organ, slide through the ditch, yank the wheel back, and somehow I ended up back in the middle of the road in front of the semi. And my heart probably skipped several beats. And at this point, felt like it was going to jump out of my chest. I immediately gently pulled the car off to the side of the road. Cut it off, because I had to gather myself. Meanwhile, my friends who were in the car with me looked like ghosts. I don't think we said a word for about a minute. It seemed like 10, but it was probably not that long. After I collected my thoughts and we all sort of calmed down a little bit, I finally felt okay and calm enough to head on back into town. I thought for sure that the organ was going to be destroyed in the back of this U-Haul. So we got out of the car, we went in the back, opened it up, and the organ was fine. It was still strapped down. Everything was fine. I don't know how that's even possible. I don't know how we didn't even lose the trailer, but we didn't. We go to get back in the car, try to turn it over, and there's no sound, no lights, no cranking, nothing. The Jeep was completely dead. So sitting there, I don't know what to do. And this is somewhat before cell phones. And even if I had a cell phone, we were in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if you would have even had service. So we decided to wait there a little bit while we figure out what to do. And eventually the rain stopped. I got out, I checked the battery connections, make sure I didn't jar anything loose. Everything seemed to be fine. And at this point, we don't really know what to do. We're miles and miles from the last bit of civilization that we've seen. So I think maybe we're going to have to walk somewhere. Maybe someone will see us. I don't know what. We get out of the car, we walk across, and if I look here in the forest, I see this opening. And it goes down to this huge circle. And it's really odd and strange looking, and almost ominous and a little bit eerie. And when I look at it, it's barren. It's just a circle of dirt and almost black looking and then brown dirt in the middle of the forest, and there's no trees or anything growing on it. And we were all just kind of tripped out a little. It was real eerie feeling. So we get back in the car. I try to start it. It's completely dead. No sound, no lights, nothing. So we sit there and wait, not knowing what to do. We're miles away from anything. We were kind of waiting for a car to stop and maybe someone to help us. But I got back in the Jeep and thought I'll give it another shot. Tried to start it, fired right up immediately like nothing was wrong. Now there was grass and dirt all over the U-Haul on the side of it where we had gone over into the ditch. But I wanted to get home. I wanted to get that organ back. This spot we had just seen on the side of the road was weird. It was a very strange feeling. The near miss accident just freaked me out. So I wanted to get back to Charlotte as soon as possible. So we booked it home. Wasn't until we got back that we realized where that Jeep had stopped on the side of the road and where through the forest that circle where nothing seemed to grow was. And there's an old folklore about this place called the Devil's Tramping Ground. And the folklore around it is that the devil goes there at night and walks in circles. And nothing can grow there. And sure enough, that's exactly what it looked like. So we get back, we unload the organ, unload the Leslie, and that's the 54 Hammond and Leslie that you see sitting behind me right now that's been on countless of records here at Gat3.